Hey everybody, welcome to the webinar today. We're going to get started in just a few minutes with the man, the myth, the legend, Brad Leavitt, but we want to give enough time to let people kind of get in here and we'll get intros. So I know it's a little bit awkward as we're sitting here waiting to get started, but we want to let people get in here. We're at 46 attendees right now. We were expecting quite a few more. We just hit the noon hour, so sit tight. And if you can, do me a favor, go to the bottom of the Zoom screen, click chat, let us know if you can use it, if no one can, or let us know where you're located, because I would love to kind of see who's representing the old BT Nation out here today for our conversation with Brad Leavitt and the financials. Got a hand raise going. QA. Looks like the chat is disabled. We are working on that. That's why we test things, you know? You got to make sure it's working for the people out there. If you're just getting in, we're just waiting a little bit, give people enough opportunity to get settled and make sure the Zoom is working. And we are working on getting the chat. And then we're going to talk a little bit about housekeeping rules for conducting the webinar today. Just a minute, and then we will get started.
I love some good housekeeping.
We need housekeeping. You know, it's all about making sure the experience is best for the customers. Sam, let me know. We're disabled on chat. We're working on it. We're working on it. This happened last time. One of these days, we'll get it right from the jump. These dang Zoom settings, they just keep shifting on us. All right, I think we're leveling out in terms of attendees. If anybody joins a little bit late, that's totally okay. But we're going to go ahead and get started. So first of all, welcome everybody. We're really excited to have you here today. We've got Brad Leavitt of A Finer Touch Construction, a power user for Buildertrend. And this is the first time I've had this. He brought some friends with him, some of his team members, to kind of discuss what they're doing for financials. It's really exciting, really, to make my job very easy, to have professionals to talk about how they run their Buildertrend account. Not a dream for someone like me who works with contractors on Buildertrend. Couple things as we go through today. We definitely want you to be able to interact with our guests, Brad and his team. They're amazing Buildertrend users, amazing contractors down in Phoenix, Arizona. We are working on the chat, but actually it might be a blessing in disguise, because if you want to submit your questions, I actually recommend using that QA. It helps me prioritize which questions I've answered or not answered, whereas the chat, it can really get flowing. It can be kind of difficult to tell. So please, please, please put your questions in the QA, but let us know what you're thinking in terms of like where you're from and good idea, or I've never thought of that, in the chat. Okay. Looks like the chat's now working. Couple other things with the QA. I will do my best to make sure we get all the questions answered, but with, you know, up to 100 people by the end of this thing, it can be a little bit tough. If we don't get to your question, we will follow up with an answer. And I will make sure that you hear from us in the next week or so as well. This is being recorded, so you will be sent the recording. And I know we're going to move really fast and cover a lot of content. So don't worry, we will send that to you as a takeaway as well. All right, all the housekeeping stuff covered. That's about it. And I'll kind of keep us all in line as we move along here. Real quick introduction to myself. My name is Zach Watovich. I'm a director of customer success here at Buildertrend, which means I basically work with the teams to help run Buildertrend accounts for customers, work with customers, onboard customers, be there as your kind of point of contact. And with us, I kind of already did a soft introduction, but we've got Brad Leavitt of AFT down in Phoenix. He builds amazing homes, and he's a full cost plus builder. And he's here to talk us all through his financial process with Megan and Spencer, who are on his construction team as well. Brad, thank you. And Spencer, Megan, great to have you here. How are we doing today?
Doing awesome. Great to be here. And yeah, we have the true talent behind AFT. We got Spencer Megan on here, so we're in good hands today. So
I have a rule myself. Always bring a friend, right? Always bring a friend. It's good to have backup. I've been spending a lot of time with you lately, Brad. We were in Kansas City for your ACBC builder group, and then we were just at Contractor Coalition. You refreshed for our webinar today, or are you tired of me yet?
I'm good. You know, I can't get enough Zach time, so I get 3 times in a month. And you know, you live in Omaha and Phoenix. This is great.
That's right. That's right. Okay, so as we get into your Buildertrend account, we are going to show real data, real examples of how you use it. But I want to just kind of start with the high level vision, you know, about the necessity of having really strong financial management. What is kind of your perspective on how critical it is to be in control of your finances and overall the long-term success of your business?
I think it's a good question, Zach. As you mentioned, we were just together at our Builder 20 and then at the Coalition Summit. And I think the two main themes whenever I attend those conferences are financials. With the summit itself, we start with financials, AC, BC, and our Builder 20. That's where we spend most of our time. The reality is, as a business owner, when I started early on, I don't feel that I had the best grasp of the financials. Whether it be down to the balance sheet and income statement, to understanding WIP, right? Understanding AP and AR, aging reports. There's just, you take those accounting classes in college and maybe you're half asleep at the wheel sometimes, or at least I was, just being open. And, as you start operating your business, you realize how important this is. And, the problem is that most of us builders, you can be a great builder and bad at business and you're going to fail. And you could be a bad builder, great at business, and probably succeed. I mean, unfortunately, that's just the reality of it. And, most of us may be skilled in our craft, but the financial side is something we're lacking. And if you really want to take your company to the next level, you really need to understand advanced financials, right? And there's a lot of strategy behind that too, whether it be, the projects you take on, who you onboard, the hiring process, retaining talent. There's a lot of things that go into the company culture, the organization, that is very heavily intertwined with the financial side.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. It can get away from you really quickly, right? I mean, you could feel like you're on top of your financials and everything's good, and then something happens, and all of a sudden you may not be fully aware, but it just starts to get out of control. So having those systems and processes, you talk about that a lot with your people that come to your summit, but also just in terms of what's going on with
well, the problem is,
construction.
Zach, if I interrupt you, what's interesting is that you bring up a good point, because the issue is that so many builders and people think that, hey, I have signed this big job, I'm bringing revenue, checks are coming in, we're making payments, and you really don't understand what your cost is. You don't understand your operating income and what labor is costing you and staffing. And so by not having a good financial plan, onboarding system that you're really tracking, it's really hard to understand, am I making money, am I not? And really at the core of this, you see a lot of people that are like, hey, the bigger I got as a company, the less money I made. And so you're adding all this stress to the company, to the, to the operation, and you may not even be making more money because you don't understand the financials. And it's not that you can't be big and make money. It's just, it goes back to that core financial process that you have to understand and have in place.
I love it. So we're going to get into some of how you're using Buildertrend to have those processes, but I want to do just a couple introductions for Spencer and Megan. Can you tell us a little bit about what they do at AFT?
Yeah, I will. And I'm going to have Megan show her screen in a minute as we get into some of the financials. But for now, Spencer is our director of operations. And so Spencer is my right-hand man as far as, as we're working through the entire operation, right? I'm a huge proponent of understanding, that how that baton is passed from the first time you get that job lead, that initial phone call, until that, close of occupancy and that warranty period. What does that transition look like? So Spencer works with me on that entire process from, beginning to end. Really important part of it. Oh, good. We got Spencer here. So
We got highlight. We got people, just like
people behind the scenes. So we got Spencer giving a little FaceTime. So with Spencer, he and I have known each other for a long time. Fortunately for me, I've known Spencer for 20 years now. Go back to some basketball days to, working together, and now here he is with AFT. But one thing that Spencer's really talented is he's a really good integrator. And Megan, who we're going to introduce too, they're phenomenal integrators. They're much better integrators than I am. I'm probably more talented as a visionary, but they're great integrators. And so you have to have that yin and yang, right, to any company. And so they're really good creating systems and protocol that we can operate as a team. And then Megan here, so good. We got Megan on. She's our project manager, and Megan's a rock star. We were fortunate to be introduced to her from a mutual friend, mutual client, and she was in the industry doing solar, and stole her from California, which is where I came from. And she's been with us for quite a while now, almost 5 years, I think, right, Megan? So yeah, about 5 years. And Megan is highly integral in our system. So one thing that I feel is our secret to success as a builder is our project coordinators. And our project coordinators really drive these projects. And so that allows our supers to focus on quality and the schedule, but it's really the coordinators that are making these projects happen. So from contracts to as-builds to submittals to RFIs to cabinet drawing sign-offs to windows. And what we're going to be speaking about today, change orders, payables, AP, it's all running through Megan and her team, all of our coordinators. So Megan trains and oversees all of our coordinators. and is heavily involved in the accounting portion, especially the cost plus model that we run.
Yeah. And one of the things that we're talking about today is obviously the financials, but you really didn't start with the financials with Buildertrend. You were using the project management features almost exclusively until just in the last, what, 6 months or so, last
Yeah.
year. Why did what was the tipping point? Why did you decide that you're now ready to use the financial features and move really all of your operations into Buildertrend?
Yeah, it's like moving the Titanic, it's been a pretty big task over the past year. The reality was we were becoming more and more integrated with Buildertrend, not just, high level daily logs, not just schedule. We started incorporating, from to-do lists and tracking and document control, QR codes, which a lot of people know us for. There's just a lot of programming and project management that we're using Buildertrend for. And as I was strategizing with our team in-house, we had some really big pain points. And to be straightforward, we had this very robust accounting software and super robust, super detailed. We were not on QuickBooks at the time. And this is nothing on Buildertrend, but it didn't integrate. And so I'm sitting here thinking, and I'd met with some consultants that I work with on the financial side. And I remember specifically, we're sitting in the conference room and they asked me, they said, Brad, how much do you use Buildertrend? I'm like, every day. Okay. How often, with this robust software, is it achieving all of the project management that you need? And I said, zero. Like it does the financial and it's super detailed and we can get, from WIP to any reports I need, but there's no integration to owner bills. There's no integration to the daily tasks of running our business. And we both look at each other and what are we doing with this robust accounting software? Why don't we make this transition to move to QuickBooks so we can integrate, move to Buildertrend? And it was a game changer. I mean, we are still working through, which has been amazing. Buildertrend has been a huge advocate of working with our team. In fact, we had a call yesterday working through just some modules that we're going to be updating with the Cost Plus to make this more user-friendly. But I can tell you today in May, based on where we were last May, how much easier and streamlined, and it goes back to your first question, Zach, that when you look at the financial side, you have to have a good grasp of that. I have a much better grasp of where we stand today than I did last year. And the whole reason that's the case is because we made the accounting transition and went all in with Buildertrend to run everything through that software.
Yeah, that's a story I wish I hadn't heard as commonly as I do, right? I hear that all the time. Hesitancy, the fear of the unknown. It's like if you aren't sure about the transition, you feel like it's gonna mess up your books, it's natural. But eventually you start to work through it. And I'm here to say there are thousands of people out there that are just like Brad who have made that leap, and it changes the way that their business functions, their efficiency, their communication. I mean, I would go to businesses and they would be using like different cost code ledgers between project management and financials. It's like they're speaking Spanish and Italian and they're missing things, right?
Right.
So it's really critical, but it's hard to like get over that mindset of like it's not worth it, but it is. And thank you so much for kind of answering those initial questions. I think it sets us up nicely to kind of walk through the way that you use Buildertrend to run your financials. So we're going to start with a budget. And it's Q&A style. So as we're going through this, our listeners out there, please use that Q&A area, ask questions. We can clarify, we can go deeper, but we're going to actually jump in and show some of the way that AFT is running their budget and their invoices and kind of get into all their workflows. So as well as the client portal. So we'll start with the budget. Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna make, why don't you open that landscape line? Okay. So this one has, and then we can zoom in, right? And then we have the 21 fees on top of that, right? Okay. So really, to Zach's point, we pulled up a sample budget right now. And the way we're doing this, and I'm just going to tee this up in this way, is that one thing that I love about Buildertrend that I alluded to is there's a merger with CoConstruct, right? One thing that Buildertrend's really focused on between now and the next 6 months is really creating a robust cost plus system for the financials. Buildertrend was phenomenal with the lump sum or the GMP model. And part of our, I don't want to say hesitation, part of the reason we probably didn't move earlier to answer Zach's question is we are still working through making sure we can go through this. So in the interim, as we're working on a cost plus module, I'm getting at is that for us, that when we're doing a job, we have our monthly supervision, right, which is a cost code. We have our cost plus, you have insurance that is a percentage of total. and I won't go into all those specifics in tax, how we do tax here, whether it's point of sale or whether it's a discounted rate, depending on remodel, new build. You know, every state has a different tax law, but at the core of it, what happens is that when we give a client a budget, as you see here, and we're going to zoom in a little bit, but we have it broken out so that you can see what the general cost code item is. So as we zoom in here, you have the general item contract, which is 237,000, and then we have the markup of 51. And so what we've done is we have this group together so that as the client, you know, the client sees the total amount. And then in that, we have allotted costs that are allotted to the sub. And then we have the markup, which is based on tax, insurance, you know, and our cost plus. And so by going through this budget, what's really great about this is that we can, we have a pretty in-depth estimating process with our Excel, and it transfers right into Buildertrend. So we agree with the client on the total project, cost. We move that right over into Buildertrend. Budgets are set up immediately. It's as simple of making one upload. And then now the client from the owner portal, us internally, we can track what the trade cost is and what the markup is, you know, as we open and expand each line. And then as we shuffle through here, you're going to see from the initial estimate, you know, we may have bills or POs that have hit that. You know, we have the QuickBook cost, but you have the projected cost. We have what's paid to date, you know, cost to complete, amount invoiced, and estimate versus total cost. So essentially, the client has a great snapshot of where they stand. What's nice about the system, Zach, and this goes back to your first question, the reason we made this integration is because we had a third-party software, it was tiresome that every time the client would say, what's my budget? Where am I at? Where do we stand? And we'd have to go get these documents and email them or put together, you know, some sort of document control for them. Whereas now they can log in, they have an owner portal. So 24/7, that transparency is here. I am a transparent, you know, cost plus builder. So they have it at their disposal. And this links to the contract. So we have contracts and we have, you know, all the PDFs for all the design docs, and everything's in there for the client.
Yeah, so actually, it's an interesting question. Casey asked, you know, you mentioned that you're running your estimate through Excel and not Buildertrend. Is that
Correct.
something that you're planning on, or is there a reason that you're not using Buildertrend for the estimating process? You can be
Great
honest.
question. I think it's walk before run in the sense that, like, you know, we just made changing banks, changing software. I mean, there are a lot of moving parts. And so with that, one thing that we feel that we have daily logs down, we feel that we have scheduling down, we feel that we have the way the payables sync to QuickBooks now, like the AP and AR dialed in, the way we're doing the own bills dialed in. You know, we're working right now on the cost plus modules. So really my goal, just being open as I work with you, Zach, and the team at Buildertrend, is that right now we have a drop down that's splitting apart the trade cost and our cost, if you will. We want to get to the point where now on the bottom, it has its own line item. Insurance is its own line item. Tax is its own line item. It auto populates, auto collects as we do the owner bill. And so where I'm getting at is that as we integrate and get this down, then yeah, we're going to move on the next step, which will be integrating the estimating. And, you know, so it's one of those things, we don't want to over confuse the system, where if we have a good process, we're going to, I don't want to say slowly integrate, but I think this is important for everyone on this live episode to understand, is that Buildertrend has an immense amount of features. They have an immense amount of project management technology that we can use. And it's up to us to send my team to Buildertrend University. It's up to us to have those regular consultant meetings. We did, you know, where we had Buildertrend come live, right? They came to and we had Buildertrend come out and meet with our team and work through this. And the reason I say that is because as we start to open up more features, it makes processes and systems much more automated for us. And so, yes, in that long-winded answer, Zach, we're going to get there. But for now, we're very happy with how Buildertrend's operating for us and our clients.
And that's just part of the change management of each business's unique needs, right? So if you're a smaller company, it can be a little faster to adopt new processes. If you are a more established company and you've been in business 10 years, trying to renovate the way that you're making money currently, that kind of takes time. You need to have a good plan. It's like, how are you hitting your milestones in order to adopt these things? So you did the classic thing that we consult even at Buildertrend, which is like, start with your most critical areas where you can get it embedded and get the benefits, and then move on to some of the more nuanced advanced features like the estimate. Because to your point, Brad, it can help run your bidding. It could help run your selections. It can help run your general line items, all these things. That's a big buffet to try and eat all at once, right? And so it's better to plan it out over where you're going to be in a year. And that's just good business practice. Be strategic, not rush, do it poorly and never get anywhere, right?
Yeah, and I think this is a really important element is we've been working with our subcontractor base too to integrate into Buildertrend. So whether it be they're onboarded, so they're getting the schedule updates and they can track the schedule, or more importantly, right now, the way we're doing our billing, because we're not cutting checks anymore, so it's all ACH. So having them sign up to receive payment. Well, now we're integrating the subs into the billing and into the scheduling. So now when you move to estimating, a lot of them are already in, they're familiar with it. So now they're, uploading bids and documents and abstracts, value engineering, whatever it may be. We're going to be a lot more adapt to process that and integrate it. And they're going to be very familiar with the software. So it's, to your point, you just have to start somewhere and then you start realizing how much it can help us as builders and go from there.
Where I kind of want to kind of take it next is, you've got your budget in here, you got your estimate. What's that experience like for your clients? How are they accessing Buildertrend? And we may need to zoom out a little bit because now it's a little too zoomed in. If we can like pull it out a little bit, kind of show us like what is one of your customers see as you embed or start using the software with them.
Yeah. So we have our owner portal. So what's really nice about Buildertrend is that we don't have to guess what the owner sees. We actually have a feature in here that Megan just pulled up where we can go in and we can see exactly what the homeowner sees. And so from, right here, we have recent media. So whether it be floor plans, elevations, design book, us just being open, we're not integrating, doing selections. We don't do a whole lot. I mean, there's to-do lists and there's some questions we have, but for the most part, we're working with interior design firms and architecture firms. So those documents get uploaded, we create the QR codes. But at the core of it, to your question, is that it really gives a good breakdown for the client that, to the left, they have a really good view of where the project is and what the balance is due. So again, this goes back to, they don't have to call me and say, Brad, where do I stand? How much money do I owe? That transparency is here where they have the contract price, the change orders, job running, and they know where we stand, less the payments received. So quick snapshot, those KPIs that we talk about, those key performance indicators, the clients have them right at their disposal. And to the top right, you'll see this is really important. What's happening, from daily logs, incomplete to-dos, whoever those are assigned to upcoming selections, it's an easy click. And now, because we move the financials over, what I really do like is that all of the change orders are done through Buildertrend with the client. They're all uploaded. And I know we'll get to this, but we're going to show how those owner pay apps are completed too, and how we don't have to spend time scanning, faxing, anything else. And as Megan went through here, it shows pending, approved, declined. She kind of went through approved fast just because there's a client name on there, but we at our disposal, and the client can see any change order approved to date and where they stand financially on the project.
How long did it take you before you were using clients with Buildertrend? Did you start with the project management suite first or did you just go live with this once you got the financials?
Yeah, we've been using the project management side, from schedule and daily logs, and just being open. I think this is really what pushed me to make the change last year, Zach, is I felt from the client perspective, not having the financial, I don't want to say it was uneventful. Just, there was just a whole part of the building when they're spending X million dollars on a house that they want to be comfortable where they're at. And if you could put the financials in, and then you have the schedule, and then you have the daily logs, and then you have the to-do list, and you have all these little features, they're just, most of our clients don't want to micromanage. Most of them have built companies, built an incredible, they're incredible entrepreneurs. Some of them tend to be micromanagers, just being open. So we have to cater to that. And this really is a much softer landing as we have all this information in front of them. And to that point, making sure they understand it and know how to get through that, the app. But being that most of them travel, and a lot of my clients being in Scottsdale come from your area, Zach, they're from the Midwest and Nebraska, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and you name it, we need to make sure that we have something that's very accessible to them, all the time.
I assume you're even infusing this into your sales process. You've talked a little bit about the way that, or when I've attended your sessions. So you actually are positioning the software as kind of like how we're going to stay in touch with you, and a little bit of train your customer about what those expectations look like.
Yeah, I can honestly say that there are projects that I've won in the interview process in comparison to competitors here because of going through the Buildertrend software, going through what Megan has open here, this owner portal, and showing how adapted it is. It's a huge sales pitch for us, and it's won us projects. And to that point, where clients are spending this kind of money, and this is a sample project, of course, but we have clients spending upwards of 25 million on a project. And that's not a small number. And so that they can understand that you have specifically that, a big project we have that we won is because of the project management side. The client wanted a builder that understands that client experience, that understands how we communicate cost and changes, and where they have access to their decisions, where we have iPads in the field that have all this information, and we're running Bluebeam behind the scenes. So all of us, if we want to level up, if you will, you have to integrate at this level of sophistication for the clients we're building for.
The interesting kind of the way the questions are going, they're tertiary to kind of the customer experience. How do you use this with your subs? So, obviously are they involved in Buildertrend, or are you onboarding them into Buildertrend? And if so, like, what's your tactic to get the subs to want to get involved? There's a couple questions related to sub usage.
Yeah. So, subs, depending on, again, it's a little more Wild West in residential. Let's just be honest. When you're in commercial, you're working with a mechanical contractor that has 400 employees. And on the residential side, they may have 7. So their whole operation is totally different in commercial. When you're in residential, we have to be a little bit more customer savvy. So some of ours are better than others. We've been training them, and some of them are very up to speed. I'd say more often than not, our subs are becoming more automated. And so because of that, it is more advantageous to be very active in Buildertrend. And as a cost plus user, we're open, so we're sharing every invoice, so it makes it really easy in that transfer of information. And we're all, one of the issues we'll have, just a pain point from years ago, is when we were trying to do, and I know this isn't the core of the question, but when we were doing lump sum at this level of project and cost, as changes are happening in the field, because designers will get frustrated, architects will get frustrated, clients would, because they're like, what is the cost? Well, we need to go figure it out. And you kind of got to go through all these different steps. Now we can get numbers on the phone. We can get bids right there, and we show them it's cost plus, it's open book. So it's very transparent for the design team, which helps accelerate, the building schedule as well.
Do you use Buildertrend to manage your actual billing cycle with subcontractors? I believe you're actually like cutting POs and getting commitment from them through Buildertrend.
Yeah, so let's go. Yeah, let's go through that. We're going to click here on how we do the owner bills and how that comes to our coordinators. And so we're going to show how our coordinators see it. Maybe Megan will pull that up first.
Real quick,
yeah.
My fault. I was zoomed in on it, and so my formatting was off. Megan, could you make your screen full screen? Because that was on that was me. I tried to zoom in on it, and so then I messed it up for everybody. You can blame the host, which is hosting 101 is don't mess up the screen experience.
Shows where it normally be
that's right.
Bill that you'd hit approve to pay. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
This is a project right now where we have a ton of owner bills. She's gonna click on here we go. So what's really nice now, again, we did a sample project here, but normally on the bottom of the screen, next to add to owner invoice hour, she's showing on the left, it'll say approve for payment. Okay. And so what happens is invoices come in, they get emailed to, our accounting email. And what happens is our accounting team, and this would be our AP analyst, right? Our accounts payable, will go into Buildertrend. They'll upload the invoice into Buildertrend. That is syncing to QuickBooks. And what happens is they're tagging the coordinator that's involved. So again, my superintendents aren't doing this. It's Megan and her team and all of our coordinators. They get a notification. This bill's been uploaded. And the way our payment cycles work for AFT is that from the 1st to the 25th, we're collecting invoices. On the 25th is the last day subs can invoice, and they should be billing based on the work that will be completed through end of the month. So 1 through 25 of the month, invoices are coming in. They're getting tagged. Our coordinators go through. And then what happens is they open the attachment. Down here, there's an attachment that Megan's showing. They'll open that attachment. And now what happens is they're going through this invoice. This is where our coordinators really excel, is they're checking the contract. They're checking the overall budget of the project. They're checking, all of our internal docs to make sure that what they're billing lines up. And more importantly, they're going through the daily log and contacting the super, because we're having weekly super coordinator meetings. to make sure that progress complete, that they're actually that far enough along that their trade's not overbilling, right? Because if they're billing too much, we have to make sure we curb that. So there's a lot of, I don't want to say pressure, but there's a lot of due diligence that the coordinator's doing just to check that this is right. But the automation is where you solve it, because once they hit approve to pay, that goes in to Buildertrend. And here's what I love about Buildertrend on the financial side. And this is really one of the biggest reasons we made the change, even though we're working on some cost plus little details right now. The best part about this is that when this gets uploaded, automatically it starts accruing to the owner bill. So as as all these bills are coming in for each project from the 1st to the 25th of the month, and they're getting approved by the coordinators and they're going into the system, then on the 25th, our AR, analyst, our accounts receivable, will put together an owner bill, and that owner bill automatically is already synced with QuickBooks, so it uploads all these documents. We're not having to send an email attachment of all the backup invoices. That owner bill that could be 5 pages or 45 pages, depending on how much work was done that month, it's all automated, and it comes in one simple email, and it hits to all the clients on their emails. So, and the other part of this is that if it's not ready for bill, that's where our coordinators do either work with our accounting team. They'll put comments in here. If the trades are linked into Buildertrend, they'll have those so we can communicate the trades, or we're calling them and contacting them saying, hey, you're overbilling, or this change order wasn't approved, or whatever it may be.
I love it. So a couple other kind of questions around your financial process. Daniel asked, do you ever do lump sum pricing, or are you exclusively cost plus?
Great question. So we are exclusively cost plus. There is a theory, without getting too far in depth. I think every builder needs to understand the value of projects they're doing. Some projects make sense to do a lump sum. I can tell you with the scale and complexity of projects that we're doing, and really the time frame, most of our projects are 12 to 24 months of design on average, and they're typically 20 to 26 months to build. So our projects are 3 to 4 years. There's a lot of planning and coordination and costs that go into them. You just lump sum would never work for a couple of reasons. One, clients want to be very transparent when they're spending this kind of money, and number two, there's too much risk for us as the builders. So to answer that, yeah,
Well, and you've talked about this quite a bit. When I've been around you, you actually end up doing a lot of pass through kind of cost to the customer and on your overhead expenses, and like you're able to, through a cost plus, you're able to basically subsidize a lot of the expenses of running your business to the job. Like Buildertrend's a great example. Like Nick Schiffer talks about that a lot. Like you wouldn't have a project management platform if you weren't running construction, and so it gives you a lot more leverage to be able to kind of stay in control of all of your business expenses, not just like your fixed cost from the projects.
Yeah, it's such a good point, because the reality is, Zach, is you can actually control the costs. And here's what I'll say is that, part of this is branding, part of it's marketing, part of it's reputation. I mean, there's items that go into this, but at the core of it, when I'm sitting in front of a client, they know how I'm paid. And as your reputation grows, you may be more expensive than the other guy, but they may look at this and say, you're worth every cost, and I know how you're paid. There's no question about that. I'm good with it. And, here's all the other ancillary things that go into building a home. And as you become more familiar with what it takes to build a house or build a commercial project, then yeah, you're going to break that out so the clients can see every cost and understand this is what it takes. The transparency works all the way around. You may not want to pay for X, Y, and Z, but that's part of it because we're super transparent. So that is integrated into the cost of the build.
Do you, Ken asked, when it comes to your process around cost plus, do you charge for your pre-con services as well?
Yeah, it's a great question. And we do. So we always charge for pre-con, and it always goes back to an early example. I think this is probably 8 years ago, started my company. I was asked to bid on a project, and this is back when I was bidding pretty heavily, right? As we're building our name and reputation. And I go through the bidding process, do the bid, send it to the client. And the feedback was, he said, Brad, there was another builder that charged, 10 grand for the bid. And I actually respected them more because although they charged me, it meant that they were, really invested in the project. And I thought that was interesting because a lot of us have the mentality that, hey, if we're going to price ourselves out, or we're just trying to create good faith, we want to get the job. And so we're kind of going above and beyond. But at the core of it, when you're spending this much time in pre-con, 12 to 24 months, or the estimating process is so robust, as we mentioned, there's so much detail to these takeoffs and bid collection. and we don't want to exhaust our subs either, that there should be some skin in the game. So on our side, we have to provide the value to the client, that there is value, there is a process, there is a lot of time we're putting in, but on the reciprocating side, here's the cost to do that and work with AFT.
A couple of things related to that too. So when you're talking about client experience and what you charge for them, obviously changes on the scope happen in this type of work with Cost Plus. They're able to adjust as they please in a lot of circumstances. How do you handle the itemization of a change order, and like how does that impact the way you're using the budget and Buildertrend? Are you doing one change order for everything that you bill? Kind of what's that workflow for you when it
Yeah,
comes
we
to
could
change order?
we could pull a sample change order out of Megan do that here, but our change orders. So one thing that's really important as she's pulling this up is we use what's called a PCO log, a potential change order log. And
Oh,
what happens in these projects, as we know, there's a lot of moving parts and there's a lot of subcontractors. One change may impact 12 other, subcontractors. So in that log, we're tracking all the potential offsets and, mishaps and complication that goes into it. And so we can put that together on a spreadsheet, advise the client on it. And then essentially when we get verbal approval, it comes in here into the purchase order. And then as Megan's pulling this up, this is all through Buildertrend that we're breaking it out. So we're breaking out the line item cost of everything that goes into this change. We're showing what the fee would be. We're showing what the insurance percentage is. And then we have the backup as she's pulling up here, and we send this out for signature. So again, simple change order on this one, $450, pretty straightforward. And everything, the way we charge lines up to our contract that we've already agreed upon with the client. This gets sent out, client signs in a Buildertrend, they approve it, and then it locks in right into approved change order that now we can take that, send the sub change order, so then they can update their contract and when they're billing us. So it's very seamless with the change order side and it's very straightforward, as we implement it and get it approved here on the BT side.
and Ken asked a question. It was the first question on Q&A. Ken, I was waiting for the right moment. It's a little bit of it's a very good question, but when you're going to create a change order, he says, how are you basically preparing this for the customer? GC, cost to bid, the change order itself, additional supervision, do the schedules. It's, they see it as a revenue leak for a lot of their work, and they're having issues closing out jobs because of the timing of those change order requests at the end of projects. So how are you dealing with kind of that rhythm of the change order, and then like how are you passing on those other factors to the customer?
The best way to do this is what we call like an impact fee, right? And so you may have a standard cost plus that's like a percentage, but one thing that's really important that we're not perfect at, it's something that we should be doing all the time, that we make a huge priority, is put duration days in change orders. And so what happens is when a client signs a change order, they may say, yeah, I'm good paying 50 grand for this change. And I'll give a good example. We were doing an ICF house out of insulated concrete form. We approve all the final inspections, rebars in the walls for the ICF, all the window openings are done. We have the bucks in, and we have all the concrete trucks coming in 2 days to pour these walls, and we're off to the races. Client comes in from out of town, says, I want to change half my window package. Okay, call off the hounds. You can't bring all the concrete trucks out. We're changing all these windows. Even though it's styrofoam, there's a lot of work involved. We have to get new ICF material. We got to put new rebar. I mean, everything changes on this.
Mm-hmm.
They on the superficial or on the high level, they may look at this and say, yeah, I'm fine paying the 60 grand it is to make this change. However, that's just the cost of the subs. This is going to cost me 12 weeks because I got to reorder windows. I got to get crews out here. They're backed up. And so I have to factor in, what does that 12 weeks of labor mean for me? What does that 12 weeks mean to the schedule? That should be added. So I would do it two ways, where you have the cost of the goods and then you have call it the penalty or the realistic time frame it adds to the project. And I would still put the duration days in there of 60 days, because clients have a short-term memory sometimes, where you get to the end of the project. Hey, Brad, I was expecting moving for Christmas. Well, yeah, remember that ICF change you made about 8 months ago? Well, you're moving in the end of February. So there are a limit that, it sets a clear expectation on moving date, and call it the penalty or the cost of doing business by making changes at certain points of the schedule.
Mm-hmm. You got a compliment on your change order acronym as well in the chat. They call them zero change orders. They like yours better. Maybe you just they'll change it up the name. Devin, Devin had a great question related to the way that you charge your overhead and profit for your different job types. So are you kind of a standard fixed rate of overhead and profit fee, or does it change project and client? And then with that, are you breaking that out itemization wise? Is it per line item, like O&P charge, or is it broken out as like a standard fee kind of added at the bottom?
Yeah, to be clear, I'll answer the second part first. And this kind of goes into, just to be clear, because we're kind of showing that Buildertrend's working with us to make it so that we can have a separate line item so it's individualized by itself. Currently, when we are, not me, but our team is working on the estimates for on Excel, it is broken out: cabinetry, framing, right? Concrete, landscaping. And then at the bottom, they're going to see what the cost plus is on top of that. So they see what that overhead and admin fee is. We also have a line item for supervision in there, right? And they're going to see what that is for the cost of our superintendent to be on site and coordinator and those involved with the project. So on that sheet, it's itemized. But again, as we're working with Buildertrend, what we're having to do is once the client approves that, then we have to go into Buildertrend and almost backdoor it where that cost plus that we already agreed upon, let's say it's 400,000, that gets, even out percentage wise on top of landscape, on top of cabinetry, on top of concrete. And so the owner knows that, they see that it's still the same bottom line. They just know specifically how that cost plus is on each line item. Now, Buildertrend's going to work with us so that it kind of matches how we do our estimating process. That's great. So that answers that. Going back to adjusting your fee, something that I think with most of the savvy builders that I've networked with around the country and those who do cost plus, just because the project becomes more expensive doesn't mean you should lower your fee. As risk grows, so does your risk. And the more expensive the project, the more potential it has to put you out of business. And so your cost plus shouldn't change, just like insurance doesn't change when you buy a more expensive car, it just gets more expensive. So you have to understand that core of your business. But on the flip side, if you have a standard percentage, and let's say you have a client call you and you're used to doing $2, $3, $4 million jobs, and a client says, hey, I want you to do this $100,000 change, and you're going to do it because it's goodwill. Yeah, you better change that cost plus to maybe a different percentage you do on 3 million because you're doing 100 grand. So in the opposite, it works, but as it increases, I definitely would push back to not, lower that.
Love it. That's great advice. I've got 4 questions about something you mentioned very early that's not necessarily related to financials, and I know that's the topic today, but your QR code workflow. A lot of customers don't realize we have a QR code capabilities. Would you mind just giving us a quick kind of like example of how you're using the QR codes for Buildertrend? I know it's off the agenda, so I'm really just
we're going to pull it up. We're going to
shot.
pull up an existing job. This is actually Megan's job.
Sorry,
we'll name drop for Megan a little bit. She's working with Studio McGee on this job out of Utah. So a lot of you know Studio McGee from Netflix. So she's pulling up a project of ours and she's going to show you how we do the QR codes. In fact, I was just there yesterday walking the project and we're getting close to drywall, and Ryan, who's running that project, and Megan, they have laminated QR codes all throughout the build. So all throughout that, the QR codes and on design drawings. So she pulls it up, QR codes right there. In the bottom, you can Yep. So she's going to pull up the QR codes and maybe appliances. And so
here in the primary,
yep.
we have our spec itself.
So click on the spec. So our QR code is going to pull up this spec. So you're in the field, you scan the appliance spec as you're working through maybe the cabinet drawings, you're looking what's going in, and it could be the cabinet drawings. It could be the CAD drawings of the tile work in the bathroom and the shower. So all this stuff she's pulling up is linked to the QR code. So these documents can be updated anytime we want. And then that way the QR code stays the same in the field. As we laminate those and put them in the field, the QR code never changes, but the documents on the back side of it do get updated here.
Yeah, that's a relatively new feature for the project manager, I think, in the last 8 to 12 months that it has.
It's the best thing.
It's been one of those little things that I like. Sometimes they roll out features. I'm like, is anyone going to use this? And I get more positive feedback about the QR code than I can possibly imagine. It's been really, really successful.
All of our videos have gone viral anytime we've done anything on QR codes. Yeah, clients and designers and architects love it. So
that's fantastic. Another group that kind of we touched on, or you discussed that you are working closely with, is designers. So are your designers accessing Buildertrend, and like, are they going through a selection process on the Buildertrend side?
Yeah, so good question. So our designers are familiar with Buildertrend, and all of them know Buildertrend, and depending on what stage of the project we're at, they're going to be using that from punch lists and to-dos. As far as the selections, currently they're not. On these big homes that range from 5 to 35,000 square feet, there's a lot of work that they're doing in-house, and they're providing us with all the electronic documents. So everything that we have, every designer we're working with is doing CAD elevations, and their document control gets integrated. And then Spencer and Megan and our team are now inputting this, as we just showed you with Megan in one of the existing projects, and then calculating QR codes off of that. So, and then as updates come and red lines come and changes come, we get slip sheets. These sheets come in, could be an engineering change, whatever it may be, that gets put into the system, and the QR codes updated automatically. So as it stands currently, and again, every business is different. So there are a lot of builders that use the selections. I know a few in particular, and they love it. Like, it's an awesome feature. And they're doing a little bit more of a hybrid design build, or their designers are working with them on that. So it's a great feature. It's just, for us, it hasn't been needed, but there's still a ton of benefit in that system that we're optimizing.
That's awesome. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I think it's related to Devin's question around like communication with customers. I assume that you're communicating with owners through Buildertrend. Do you also use email, or do you do your best to try and consolidate kind of the communication flow to the software?
Yeah, we're using predominantly email. And well, I should say predominantly. I mean, there's a portion through Buildertrend, from change orders to to-do lists to things that we're tracking, punch lists, known unknown documents. So probably half. And then when you're speaking about maybe design changes to the pool, maybe you're talking about a big change structurally to the house, and there is email correspondence, engineer, architect, client, designer. And so it really depends on the format of what excuse me, the item is.
Love it. Are you using AI formats as well when it comes to your billing practices? And
That's something we're going to be working on with Buildertrend. So that's in the
Right.
queue. Is that previously we were doing exclusive AI billing. Now it's kind of a hybrid, the way the Buildertrend does it. But we're working with Buildertrend so that we'll be formal AIA, that when those pay apps are published and sent out to the clients with all the backup invoices, that they will be AIA. Our clients love AIA. It's a little bit of a handhold, but they love it. So
Yeah. Well, it really formalizes the process. It's clear about what exactly you're going, and it makes a lot of sense from just transparency, visibility versus some invoices I've seen, which are like, look like they're written on a napkin or something. So we're kind of slowing down a little bit. We're up against the clock. I do want to just touch on kind of one last item that we had on our agenda, which is your WIP reporting and kind of how you guys are handling WIP. What's your process, and things of that nature?
yeah, so our WIP is, again, this is something that we're working with Buildertrend to integrate fully into the software. Currently, what we're doing with QuickBooks, because it's a little tricky, I will say, with QuickBooks, the software we were using before, we had the option where we can close the books on certain dates. The issue is now we're actually closing the books on the 25th. So the invoices coming in after, aren't being processed through end of month. They're getting put on the next payment cycle. So because of that, we're actually doing our WIP offline with QuickBooks. It's, we're taking some information from QuickBooks, doing it offline, creating our WIP, which helps us create our financials and know where the health and financial status is of the company. But this is one of our target metrics that we're actually working on to get moved over into Buildertrend, so that all of our WIP is congruent and fluent there with the Buildertrend system.
Love it. All right. Well, we covered a lot. I kind of moved all over the place with you in terms of questions. So I really appreciate you letting our customers at Buildertrend ask the experts in the industry, kind of talk about their processes. There's a few outstanding questions that some of these I may need to follow up separately around, feature functionality that I can send and kind of give more detail, like the exact ways that it works. Hopefully today you feel like you got some insight into the way some of the best builders, and some good advice, which is like, you can't do it all today, and that's okay. Have a plan, work with Buildertrend, reach out to your account manager is what they're called. And if you don't know who that is, you can email me directly, and I'm more than happy to get in touch with people that can help develop those plans and walk you through all these things. And we will make sure that you are taken care of. Brad, Spencer, Megan, thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed chatting with you today. And we will continue to do these at Buildertrend. We bring our customers more and more. So if you like these webinars, give us that feedback. But I promise we're going to continue to do this. Brad, Spencer, Megan, anything else for the group?
No, we love our friends at Buildertrend. So thanks for letting us come on today, and appreciate all you guys do for us to help us run our business. So
The pleasure is all ours. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.